Recognizes the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Curtis, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a special thanks for this hearing today to our witnesses. Before I move to my comments and questions, I want to address some comments that were made in opening remarks that seem to imply that Republicans only care about fossil fuels, that we want to oversubsidize the industry that we own and are responsible for the great profits that they've had in the last few months. That we're all about drill, baby, drill. None of these comments are helpful to a productive dialogue. I'd like to quote from an article at the Wall Street Journal Opinion Board. The name of the article is Joe Biden's Big Oil Profits. To quote, "Behold the irony, President Biden has done more to enrich big oil and its shareholders than Donald Trump or any other White House occupant in decades." It goes on to say, but big oil companies are merely benefiting from supply shortages and production constraints the administration's helped to create. I gave my staff a 3-minute drill. In about 3 minutes, they found over $100 billion of subsidies to the fossil fuel industry in the IRA and other Biden legislation with carbon sequestration, biofuels, and direct air capture. So I'd just like to point out this narrative is not accurate, it's offensive, and doesn't help move the conversation along. Now, like turning to our guest today, I'm pleased, Mr. Sandberg, to be here with you again. You and I shared a few minutes out in my district where we talked a little bit about your industry and the branding of your industry. And one of the comments that I made at that point was, I think Republicans feel that we've been falsely branded as somehow not liking clean energy and renewables. And I think it's misconstrued with our thoughts that it's not the only answer to our energy future, but that we also feel like that you're an important part of our mix and what we're doing. I'd be curious what your feeling is about this whole permitting issue, how much it's restraining you, and what we need to do about it.
First, it was a pleasure to be with you in your district and to share some time with you. I think I think there is an ability to provide common sense reforms to NEPA processes. We're not suggesting for a second that we undermine kind of the bedrock environmental laws of this country, but there is an ability, I think, to make some common sense reforms to do this, and I think the Congress can do that. What does that do for the industry? Like any other industry, capital chases not just returns, but it chases certainty and wants to avoid risk. And I think these delays in permitting introduce uncertainty into the mix. So to the extent that we can take some of that uncertainty out by having a more regular and consistent permitting process, that's going to help us deploy more clean energy.
It's almost going to sound rhetorical, but it must be asked, can we move forward in quicker times, more predictable times, and still be good stewards?
I don't believe they're mutually exclusive, sir. I think we can do both.
Yeah. Ms. Agma, do you want to comment on that as well?
Sure, I think we can do both. I think the problem arises when certain people and politicians promise that we can just replace oil and natural gas in 10 years. I mean, at the start of the Obama administration, we were supposed to be gone in 10 years. So let's be realistic about how these energy sources work together. And let's recognize that wind and solar are facing the same NEPA delays that oil and gas are. So let's work together and make NEPA a reasonable process.
So a couple of points. I was tempted to joke, and you've now prompted me, and please understand, I'm not serious, but the comment last night about fossil fuels being here in 10 years kind of makes me want to say I'm pretty confident renewables will be here in 10 years, right? And they'll be part of our energy mix. We all know, and if you look at the chairman's graph over there, we need all of you, and we need all of you to be on your game, and we need all of you to be working towards reliable, affordable, clean energy. And if you can't all achieve that, we're going to be short, all of you. And I think that's very important. I also want to point out that I don't know a single person on my side of the aisle that wants to undermine the environmental standards in NEPA. But to a person, I think we say it takes too long to get an answer. And once the answer comes, there's no certainty. And that needs to be fixed. It doesn't matter if you want to put in wind or solar or pipelines, all of that needs to be fixed. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield my time.
Gentleman yields.